that in and of itself was enough to cause a spike in my system to the degree that it registered on my thing as something that I should be aware of. That blew my mind. Like, that's how powerful our belief system is.
Yeah.
There was no objective reason for me to be afraid. None. Which is what my guides told me years ago. They said, just because you're having a fear response in the body, it doesn't mean there's something to actually be afraid of. It just means there's a fear response in the body. That's it. And that moment of connection to like, wow, that's how powerful the belief system that my mind and my body are still holding on to, that I'm bad with money or that money is a cause of stress.
Yeah. And putting a little tiny positive spin on what the body was trying to do for you and the mind was trying to do for you is to prepare you for dealing with that situation. It thought that that's what you needed.
Yeah.
That's all it was doing.
And that's, when I say the body wants what you want, that's what I mean is that the body wants to thrive. The body wants you to be successful, to be safe, to be healthy, to be fed, to be watered, to be rested. And it is only doing so within a contextual understanding of how you live. It doesn't know that the stress is coming from watching something on TV and not something from you actually being stressed like in real life. It's just
Yeah.
responding to stress.
Yep.
So in that way, it's just a neutral thing responding to a series of stimulus or information. How can one begin to differentiate between that example, right? Like just logging onto the bank and the body believes there's reason to be stressed. So it's preparing me to win that battle, right? Heightening everything. And how ironic, the body thinks me sitting at a desk in front of a computer is going into battle, but I digress.
Battle for your sovereignty.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I'm struggling to make a point here, but
I think the thread that you're starting to pull at is how can we sit at a computer and show the body that it's safe, show the mind that it's safe, so that every time we are encountering that situation, we're not having the increased inflammation in our body, the hormones flowing through our body that generate chronic illness or chronic tension in the body. How can we change the pattern, essentially? Earlier, we were talking about inquiry as one way to do that. And I hope that you will expand on that a bit. But I also think that even before we go into inquiry and compassionate curiosity, our body and mind need to be in a physiological state to do that. Because one of the things that happened in that fight or flight state, as you were sitting in front of the computer and the heart rate was going, the adrenaline's through the body, the frontal cortex, where the area where we do our higher order thinking, our planning ahead, new idea generation, the blood flow there in flight or flight is reduced. And most of the blood flow is to how do I get out of here areas? How do I mobilize the body? And how do I fight? How to mobilize the limbs of the body. So, not a good situation for compassionate curiosity.
yeah, no, because, and I'm laughing internally because, when I'm working with a client or anybody, what I'm always saying is, find a space, connect, take some deep breaths, open and relax, be receptive, because I understand that there is a very physiological reality to receiving new information. And if I'm going to create new muscle memory and new neural pathways, the body must and mind must be open and receptive because that's how it learns. And when I'm in fight or flight or freeze, that is not the time to have like a luxurious afternoon sipping tea and, burning Palo Santo and listening to the sounds of the forest while I write my body inventory, right? Like, so what you're saying is get to a place where you are safe, find a space where you are able to open and breathe and be receptive and you're what you would call yourself calm, because I think that's the other thing is like people get, but what if I'm stressed? How do I be calm? Okay, what's your version of calm? What's your version of like I feel at ease and at peace? Because that's going to be relative. But to your point, the battleground is not the place to stop and sit and have an existential conversation with yourself about your wishes and your hopes and your dreams.
Yeah. And I would say, because these days everywhere is the battleground. in front of our computers, in front of our phones, out in traffic. And we can create states of calm in that external chaos, right? You talk about, the eye of the storm. And I have found that certain body movements and positions and breath work that will stimulate the vagus nerve reliably can bring anyone into a state of centeredness. And when I practiced some of these quite early, I realized I had spent a lot of time disembodied, or I can't think of the other word for it now, but basically not embodied and looking at what was happening out around me from above.
Yeah.
When I was in my body for the first time or for several times, it wasn't comfortable.
Mm-mm. And I think
So I
that's
had to
a
work
huge,
through that.
yeah, that's a huge point to bring up. Like, if we're not familiar, like love and affection and compassion is a perfect example. If you are not used to being loved on, being cared for, feeling compassion, feeling tenderness, it's going to feel gross at first. You're going to feel like, ugh, that is, and I used to be that way with myself. I was so hard on myself and so emotionally disconnected. I was kind of divided that just watching people be compassionate and loving and tender with people, with each other, not even me just watching people on the street was like, oh, that's so gross. Like, I used to really kind of be grossed out by that because my body didn't know what to do with it. The mind certainly didn't know what to do with it. And if I'm honest, underneath that, after years of work, I discovered, well, there were some real like self-loathing issues and self-worth issues. So there was a part of me that didn't even believe that compassion, loveness, and tenderness was possible. So to your point, give it, like, work with it, stick with it. Being healthy may not feel natural if you've been unhealthy, just as a simple way to couch it.
Yeah. And sometimes finding someone to support you during those times is helpful. And I'll just give maybe two exercises, two practices that I've found to be pretty consistent, one of which has a lot of research and other has quite a bit of hypothetical support behind it. So the first is resonant breathing. Everybody's breath rate for the perfect resonant breathing is different. So the average is 5.5 seconds in and 5.5 seconds out. And you can find pacers on YouTube that will, have that bubble go in and out. If you try that 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out, that will create a resonance between your heart and lung function. And without getting into the details of it, that's going to improve your heart rate variability, which is an objective sign of the stress level in your body. Another way to say it is we're just synchronizing the systems of the body using that breath. It's very simple, just in and out. You could do that anywhere. You could do it in the car. You could do it before you sit down in front of your computer to pay a bill. You could do it at work. So that's my first and biggest favorite. I've seen quite a lot of positive benefit from that. And the research shows can reduce pain, decrease blood pressure, improve mood. So there's quite a bit of data behind that.